if this was successful, like how much money it would save.
$2 billion. The goal is, yeah, biological terraforming. Um, getting to Mars. We patented this idea of a binary counter that like keeps track of generations. This is biology. You can't stop us from you can't patent just sterility, right? And so I came up with a new way to do it, which is better. It's safer. It's more effective. So I think once that idea catches on, it's gonna change like everything.
Welcome to the Singularity Pod. All right, hi Chris. Welcome to the Anna podcast.
Hi, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I apologize. Also, I forgot to say, I apologize for like rescheduling. I it's just busy
It's
life, but great. Yeah, happy to sit down with you. I'm excited.
okay. So I want to start with like what you're working on. Give us like your little elevator pitch. I think would be a good
Sure.
idea.
Uh, Elevator pitch. Yeah, it doesn't really exist. Um, so so basically, uh, from the like bird's eye view, uh, we are trying to figure, seriously, we are trying to figure out a technology tree to terraforming, whether that is uh like whether we have like a small piece in that puzzle, or whether we are lucky enough to contribute significantly to that. That's remains to be seen. But the goal is, yeah, biological terraforming. Getting to Mars. I think we live in a really cool time, where we've got AI, we've got genetic engineering, we've got seemingly like a transportation network that's pretty getting near equipped to transport like what should be the foundations of a civilization to Mars. Um, enough to be a starter base that gets to grow. And so we're like at that seed moment in time where like whatever happens now is gonna like set precedent, right? It's a very cool time to be alive and to be uh um like engaged in hard challenges, right? So like whatever you do now, if yeah, it's like, I mean, this is true all the way along the time curve. Like it's exponential. So like next year, the year after that, it's going to only be more true. But like it's there's an amplifying effect. So do hard things now. But yeah, so we're trying to build that tech tree. And I'm a biologist, and so we think that that looks like figuring out ways to safely and responsibly, and effectively uh, release organisms that seed, and then take root. Like engraft in an ecosystem, um, and you have to do that safely. You have to do that, in a number of ways, but also that tech tree that leads to like, and the goal, to make it poetic, is can you put an atmosphere on Mars, right? Can you breathe it, right? And so like it's happened here. Where did it come from? Largely from the Great Oxidation Event, large algae in the ocean, right? Algal blooms, and so I'm not saying that's easy. I'm just saying that there's precedent for it. So, um, can we figure out the means to do planetary scale ecological engineering? And so everything that you do at toward that end should inevitably solve similar problems on Earth. So that just unlocks a lot of human flourishing. Um, and then can you amplify that effort with genetic engineering? So it's not just designing organisms for release, it's learning how to utilize the natural organisms that are already here, right? Um, and there's lots of precedents in this with biological control, taking parasitoid wasps out of the environment, rearing them and releasing them into greenhouses, etc. So it's a slowly growing field, but we're getting there. But yeah, so that's the bird's eye view.
All right, that sounds awesome. I do think it's very cool that like you mentioned that we're in like this point in time where like everything we do is kind of the the starting point for like the rest of eternity for humanity. which I think is actually very cool. It's like every like little decision that we make is very like prominent. Um, I have a question though. If when you're saying like to like build an ecosystem, uh, if I recall, I think like when like there's ecosystems that like start from where there wasn't one before, like rather than like there having been a fire or something. Like in the beginning, it's usually like lichens and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like on Mars, would it be like sort of like a lichen-esque type?
Yeah, absolutely. So that idea is called primary succession. So like succession is like in ecology, it's like you've got certain species that move in, like pioneer organisms that come in, like you're saying, like lichen, and then on top of those, by layer, by trophic layer, things build, right? So that's succession, as you move through time. Yeah, but so primary succession is the laying of that first layer. But yeah, so but yes, that is exactly what we're going to need to do on Mars. One of the focus we've got like fingers in lots of places, but one of the things that we're trying to integrate with is like desert ecology, right? Um, and so and so and also this is really important. Every step of the way has to make money, right? It's like a huge tech tree, but like but so we're working backwards from the top, right? And so but it has to feed itself so that you can fund the next step, right? It's not about making money; it's about getting to the end. But you need to make a lot of money to do there, to do that. So how can you make money like deserts? We think that like olive trees are like a strong cash crop, and you could use that to kind of like push back the bounds of the desert, by laying microbes, by like modulating like water retention with like arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, etc., and engineering those ecological relationships. So we're in a greenhouse here in Boston, and we're it's a really cool greenhouse. It's huge, and we're trying to do some stuff with olives. We're also just trying to do that like fundamental work. Also, reel me back when I if I just start
Yeah,
rambling.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. But there is a bigger challenge on Mars. Before we get to primary succession, and there is a couple of challenges. And largely there's like almost a like 100% carbon dioxide in the environment, and you almost everything on life requires a little bit of respiration, meaning a little bit of oxygen to do chemical reactions, right? So but so we'll get there, but like can you engineer organisms to survive in this complete carbon dioxide environment, and can you take advantage of micro environments, micro niches, like can if you've got like a little pocket of bacteria and they're like releasing oxygen, right? And they're like sequestering carbon dioxide. That little region there, it's like really concentrated where they are, where they're releasing oxygen, and then it quickly diffuses away. But in that environment, just a couple cells, right, could potentially have like a nice micro environment that they might be able to survive better than like a meter away, right? So like, can you take advantage of that? But then worse than that is the perchlorate concentrations in the Martian regolith, and it's just like completely toxic. It just oxidizes the crap out of everything in the environment. Nothing can grow there, right? I mean, like, I'm convinced. I think a lot of people are convinced that nothing's growing on Mars specifically because of this perchlorate problem. So, but there's microbes in like deep sea vents that can reduce perchlorates. Like they can add electrons to perchlorates, and you end up evolving oxygen gas. So it solves two problems. You get rid of the toxic perchlorate, and you generate a ton of oxygen that you can breathe. So if you were to do this in a captured dome, you can clean up that regolith right there to start growing things, and you generate oxygen to breathe. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
I remember I did like a little project when I was like in seventh grade, and we were trying to design like how we would put like a civilization on the moon. And I remember we decided even like, and I assume it's worse with Mars just because it's closer, but I don't know. I assume I guess just I don't know. But regardless, we had a couple issues with like the radiation and the moon dust and stuff.
Yeah.
And our solution to that was that we have like volcanic tubes under like the old ones. And I don't think Mars has active volcanoes anymore. I believe it's cold, right?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I'm almost certain there's,
There
uh,
are.
I, I'm probably going to say some stuff that
It's okay.
but I don't think that yeah, absolutely not.
But yeah. So there were like these like magma. tubes, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
under, and we were like, okay, if we put the civilization there, although it's less romantic than like a glass dome, but I think as far as like the radiation protection, it's a lot more convenient. And I get, is it electrolysis? Is that the one that can give you oxygen from water? Yeah. So would that be like doable or like are like is I don't know. I feel like if we start in the magma tubes, and we have plants and stuff there, and until we can like get like adequate oxygen, and then we can release into the atmosphere. Like, would that be a doable like solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think magnitude is the way to go. I think that, like when you hit the surface, uh, I'm not familiar with like the structure of the magma tubes. I should know more, um, but like if you were to pick a landing zone, are you like right there at the mouth of the magma tube and you can just walk in, or are you gonna have to dig a little bit to get to the magma tube? So like those first few, at least like years, right, where you're like building that access tunnel, etc. Where are you living? Maybe you do that like remotely with robots. But yeah, so I like the magnitude. I think it's a great idea. Maybe it's the way to go. In terms of like surviving, yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think like I don't know because I know like it's like the idea is to terraform it, but I think as long as we're I don't know. I think like if we're gonna send people there, it is safer just because of the radiation to put them in the magma tubes at least, unless you can like build an atmosphere that can protect them
Right.
from that.
Well, and then you have to worry about like the magnetosphere and like how are you going to like maintain that atmosphere, and it's thin anyway, right? So like there's a lot of technology that needs to be developed beyond the scope of biology, right? That yeah, that's gonna have to happen in parallel. So which is completely outside of my um like any of my expertise. I'm happy to like speculate, but I
Mhm.
just yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, for
we
sure.
can get back to home base and we can talk about like what exactly are you guys up to like right now?
No, you're good. I mean, like, I'm just letting you know I'll be speculating outside of that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, so right now, like that tech tree is like, okay, so how do we get there? What are the first earliest steps that we can make to like make any progress at all? And really what that means is how do we make money, right? Like what's the first earliest thing that you can do that you can make compounding profit that you can feed back into the system? Um, and I was in my PhD and I dropped out to start this company, completely naive, completely blind. I didn't know what I was doing.
Better than
Um,
academia, I think.
huh?
I said it's better than academia, I think.
Yeah, I it was. It still is. But it doesn't mean that like yeah, I'm driving Uber, which is why like I drive Uber to pay for like the to for the opportunity to build the company, right? Like so it's like it's trade-offs.
Good story though.
And
You can be like, I
I'm
used to
hopefully one day it's a yeah, maybe it's a good origin story someday.
you know how
Um
they're like Jensen was like a janitor, you know? You can be like, yeah,
I
I
didn't
used
know that. Was he a janitor? That's
I
crazy.
think so. It was something like
Cool.
that. And they like
That's
to quote
awesome.
it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Einstein was a patent clerk. Like smart people have done historically silly stuff like this.
You
So
watch
so
many
I hope
stories.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. Um, but who knows? Um, but yeah, so like how do we make that first like penny? Um, and so we like walked backwards through like a lot of stuff, a lot of different ideas. We tried this idea where we were like, okay, so can we just like design ecosystems for like farmers? And it turns out that like they don't care. Or we couldn't spin the story well enough. They just want solutions to their problems, which makes sense, right? And so then it's like, okay, so how do we solve these problems and how can we solve them cheaply? And also, as an Uber driver, it's not like we've got a lot of startup capital, right? And we haven't raised money yet. So as far as the progress we've made, we've got a law firm that likes us and has deferred fees, and is just like I mean, we're very lucky. So we're like filing patents, um, and we have like a grant. But other than that, it's just like sustained efforts with me driving Uber and my co-founder Michael, just like hitting the pavement. But Yeah, and also we're very, very, very lucky that we have a molecular biology lab here in Boston that it's like a community lab. And so the it's like 50 $60 a month now to do genetic engineering there. So and it's like a fully functioning lab. There's like nowhere else in the world where you can do this at this price. Um, and nobody knows about it. There's like one other dude in there doing a startup. It's crazy. Um, it's nuts, absolutely ridiculous. So like there's like a couple instruments that we're like tugging on that are like really lucky, they're really awesome. But like in terms of like capital, we're trying to bootstrap this from scratch, and we would love investments. We just haven't found it yet. Uh, so I don't know what that means. Um, we're not done yet. We're still kicking. But yeah, so what have we? So right now we're kind of on this idea, and we've just like done this like spiral, this like continuing like iteration of ideas. It's like under extreme constraints, right? But like that's like a fueling of the fire. That's a forging of iron. So but so where we're at now is uh and so on that tech tree, like the scaled release of genetically engineered organisms into the environment to solve a problem is like a really important like node, right? Like you need to be able to do that effectively, and you need to be able to do that with like trust, right? And like like appreciation from the market in that they want you to keep doing it, right? So like that's the only way you're going to fund it. That's the only way you're going to learn. That's the only way you're going to practice. So um you have to like do it right the first time and then be able to build on it, right? So like what's the minimal viable product? And so what's the minimal viable product of really of a scaled release of genetically engineered organisms? So we were thinking about like gene drives, and so we patented this idea of a binary counter that like keeps track of generations, so that you could like release a gene drive, and that's like the self-propagating like genetic instrument, genetic set that like can like completely spread through a population. And like you're there's some like there's like a mutational accrual, right? So like you're not going to like completely eradicate something, but you can do a lot of damage to an ecosystem with a gene drive. So they're very like regulatory. They're like preliminary. We're not there yet. Basically, like as a society, we're not there yet. And so what I think that the people who are thinking like me, that like the gene drive people, the scaled release genetically engineered organisms, like group of people, which is a small group of people, but the people who are thinking about this have kind of come to the idea that like sterile organisms are a really good wedge into that like part of the tech tree. There's been the sterile insect technique, which is you just take a bunch of mosquitoes, you raise them, and you zap them with irradiation, and you release them, and then they compete and with the fertile wild type population, and they drive a population crash. And so, but then there's been genetically engineered versions of that were patented in 2021, and by 2024 they were doing field trials. So that's like it's a super rapidly moving technology down the regulatory pipeline relative to any other genetically engineered organism like that I've ever seen. And so how can you do that like beneficially? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just rambling. Go ahead. What's up?
Is that people really hate mosquitoes, I think.
Well, it's right. It sucks, but it's also like a horrible like disease vector, right? So okay, but like that's been done. So like what's our interesting thing? We figured no one's ever done a marine pest. So and to kind of like conquer the oceans, to like master the ability to release genetically engineered organisms into the ocean could be like uh, a very useful skill to have, right, along this path. And so salmon have this like sea lice problem. It's like a $2 billion like problem. Like farmers are spending like $2 billion a year to like get rid of these sea lice. And so we're trying to genetically engineer a version of these sea lice that are sterile that you can release in mass into like the fjords of Norway and Iceland and the coastal region of Chile where they're growing salmon and pens. You can drive the population, at least like maintain it at low levels, so that they're not getting these blooms of sea lice that are like ravaging their crops and they're like losing billions of dollars on. So the idea is like, okay, so that's a cool problem to solve. That's a cool thing to do. It's an interesting organism, but it's just an organism. It's just a problem. The point is, can you figure out a way to make money and open a regulatory wedge into the scaled release of genetically engineered organisms? So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah. I imagine if you guys figured out the lice thing, you'd probably get a lot of like venture capitalists very interested in you, especially if you're like aiming for a Mars type situation. I think they're into that,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
Well, you would think we have trouble finding people who like listen to us, like who take us seriously, right? Which I mean,
It's
honestly, I get
probably
it.
because you don't have like a product yet. That's I think if you had a product, it'd be a lot better, probably.
Well, you're like 10 seconds behind.
Okay. Um. Okay. I'm just gonna keep yapping and just like tell me when it syncs up. All right. So if I just like yeah. Um. Okay. Just
You're
no.
absolutely totally split.
Okay. Um. Right. So I got this like cute little sticker actually for my phone case.
This I've got this sticker and hold on, I don't even know if I can get it out. It's like it's probably stuck to my cup holder. It's a rat.
It's a rat. Okay, I love that.
Yeah, here it is. Hold on. Come on.
This is very like biologist core. I believe you when you say you're a biologist.
It's very biological, I agree. It looks like a mess because it's sitting in my cup holder. So it's a little, he's like a dirty rat.
Aw, he's so pretty. I love him.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You're very. I can't. But the thing is, I haven't really been able to see you for like half the call anyway. So it is what it is.
Okay,
I think you might have to
solid.
sacrifice
That's okay. Survive. Um,
that. Okay.
okay, should we keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Where were we?
We were at. Um. Okay. So oh, you were talking. You were saying about how I said probably VCs are hesitant because they don't have a
Right,
product yet.
right. Well, my argument for that is you're right. So we're building, so like, okay, so no one's ever edited the salmon louse. It's called Lepiopterus salmonis. No one's ever edited the Scopipod with a knock-in edit. And what we're like intending to do is like a really complex like series of edits. Like we have to do a lot to it, right? Which is totally fine once you've developed a genetic engineering pipeline for that organism. Um, and so uh, but the problem is that you have to do micro injections. There are some other strategies, but I think my intuition is that micro injections are going to work well. Um, and then to get the eggs to micro inject, they're the only place to like get them from like a sustainable source is basically the Sea Lice Research Center in Norway, which is like going to be like a $300 shipment. So uh, to practice on these $300 shipments of eggs is like I think not a good idea. So I think that we should have a more like I don't know a better pipeline. So basically, can we do this like model organism walk? Where you start with a simpler organism or a more well defined organism, um, so there's this marine arthropod. It's a shrimp. It's called Parhale hawaiiensis, and it's like thoroughly understood. We're like really good at humanity is like really good at genetically engineering it. We understand it deeply. We've like there's lots and lots and lots of literature on it. Um, and so we're gonna start there, and it's also sexually reproducing, so you can do all of these sterile ideas in it, and then just translate them to the sea lice once you get there, right? Once you've perfected it. But the problem with that is that they're kind of like a little difficult to rear, and we are just trying to like okay, so it's basically like what I'm trying to say is can you be one step scrappier than that? And so I don't have a saltwater system in the lab. I've never done micro injections before. Can we like practice on something simpler? And so there's this little aquatic freshwater aquatic arthropod called a Daphnia, and it's super cool. It's this little water flea. And what's neat is that it's like a little window. And so when you're like looking at it under a microscope, it sits on its side, especially when you like kind of like pull out a lot of the water, it'll just lay on its side. And so you can look into it like a window and see all of its internal,
Nice.
like self.
Organs?
Um, huh?
I said organs.
Yeah. And so any edits you do to it are like obvious. Whereas in Parhiel, it's a much more complex organism. It's a much larger organism. And so it's not translucent like Daphnia. So to practice the early genetic engineering steps on, when I've never done microinjections, when we don't have a CRISPR protocol set up for like marine arthropods, for arthropods, personally in the lab, we don't. It'd be nice. And because their reproductive cycle is slower. It's closer to like I think 20 days is the turnaround on a parhale, whereas Daphne is like 6 days. So and I'm already growing that in the lab. It's like we're growing algae, we're growing Daphnia. I'll send you a video of the Daphnia. But yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're cool. They're tricky to grow. They'll go through like population crashes. Um, so you have to like really fine tune the environment. And they really don't like the buffer conditions of the water have to be like pretty consistent. Um, even
You,
though they also what's up?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. But yeah, like you either have to have like really clear conditions or you can grow them on like wastewater. So they're like weirdos. But intuitively, I think that's a good place to start. So we are starting there. And right now we I don't have the money for a fancy micro injector. I don't have the money for a fancy micro manipulator. I don't have the money for a fancy needle puller. So we're 3D printing all of those. There are like do-it-yourself projects for that. And they're like open source projects on the internet. They work really well. So yeah, I know. And then we know a lab that has a needle puller, so we're like doing needle pulling through them. So like you make things work. Um, but yeah, so can we do Daphnia, move to Parkale, and then move to the salmon louse? Um, and so when you say investors would be way more interested if we had a product, I agree, but I think it's going to take time to get to a product, and I would love to like raise a little bit of seed so that I don't have to drive Uber while I'm building these things, you know? So I'm hoping that like a prototype in Daphnia, or if that's not enough, a prototype in Parkale, will be enough to convince somebody to like fund us for like a little bit, while we can work out the
Where,
details of the rest.
where are you guys like based?
Boston.
Boston? Have you guys like talked to VCs and stuff?
Um, I'm bad at this, man. I'm just like not. I don't understand how this game works. I don't understand how to find people, right? I also have this intuition that like what we're doing is ridiculously ambitious and ridiculously complex. And if I don't want to say this the wrong way, but like if it's very founder led, it's very like I have an idea of what we're trying to do. Like I can hold the whole thing from like the recombinase genetics of the sterile insect crossing thing all the way to like terraforming Mars. Like I can hold the whole idea is in my head to like lose control, I think would be destabilizing of the project, right? It would just turn into some business and we would never actually make it to Mars, right? So like I'm trying not to do that. And so I have this intuition that like if we just build internally, if we just like take all of our time and energy and just like put it into ourselves, right? And we just work on the company and work on like we're patenting, we're working in the lab, we just keep doing that. Investors will hopefully one day start to notice that we've got some cool stuff under the hood, and those people who do will be aligned with us rather than us going out trying to find investors who are going to write us a terrible terms sheet or who are going to strip us of control or we're going to totally disrupt our company, and we're never going to make it to Mars. So there's also that in the sense of like I haven't been hitting the pavement looking for investors because I think that to find the right investor, uh, it should be probably more organic than that, rather than sending out mass for at least like what we're trying to do. Um, so, yes, I could absolutely be out there hunting down investors better. But I don't know. We'll see. There's a balance to it.
I see where you're coming from, but I feel like probably there's ways to do it where you make sure the investors are aligned, and you don't give away like too much equity. I think actually, if you just like made like a cool video type thing, and you just like recorded the Daphne, and you were like, "This is where we're at," and then you like, you know, you could. I'm fairly certain that if you use like an AI like video maker, you can probably
Yeah,
make the
like view it
timeline
through.
like we're going here and then here and then here, and like this is
Yeah,
the future.
yeah.
I
I
think
love
it could
that.
be
That's
like
a great idea. Yeah,
inspirational, and you can just put it out and like see who like contacts you. Like you don't even have to like chase anyone down for that, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I also only have
Mhm.
like 700 people on Twitter. It's not like I've got a huge following.
I mean,
So like putting it out is like, huh?
number one, I don't have that many. I have like 1.2K, but I would definitely put it out for you. But
Well, thanks.
also I think probably if you just put it out on YouTube, I don't think like you need like a huge following. I think
YouTube is a good idea. I mean, like, listen. YouTube to me, like, I think is probably a different world than when I was a kid and I was like on YouTube watching like memes. It's probably a different world now. But so I don't really think about YouTube as a platform. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's more
YouTube
effective
is
now.
ideal.
Sure,
Um, yeah, because I think Twitter is more for like doom scrolling, essentially, for most
kind of.
people.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
I think it's yeah, if you put out like a short or like a couple of videos on YouTube, and if you like chronicled it, I don't know how much time you guys have. I would edit your videos for you if you like made them, but
Sure.
uh,
I mean,
but
yeah, I'm not gonna turn it down. That sounds great.
no, it'll be
But
fun.
what do you mean by chronicle?
Just like be like, okay, today this is what we did in the lab today, and like
Okay, I
just like
see. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
so like this is
absolutely.
like the growth, and like worst case scenario, you don't get that many subscribers, but like when you see a VC, you're like, yeah, like this is like all the stuff we did. You can go like look at anything, and they can see how hard you guys are locking in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think with social media, you don't necessarily have to hunt them down so much as just like put yourself out there.
Yeah, yeah. There's also like this is horrifying, right? This is like scary stuff. It's like, oh my God, what if we're successful? Is like a huge part of it to it. It's like, oh no, what do we do now? So yeah, I mean, I'm just shy, but yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're 1,000% right.
Oh, you never gave me like. Do you have like a name for the startup?
Oh yeah, it's called Earthbarrier.
Earthbarrier Fire.
Yeah.
I think I saw
Uh,
you sent me the website at some point. I think right.
Great. Yeah, probably. I'm sure I did. The website is garbage. And it's um I don't know. It's we tried to build so like we've been trying like what's the minimal also there's an intuition you're just right. But like there's an intuition that's to be said like if we had revenue, would we have a better negotiating position, right?
I
So
understand the leverage.
okay. Yeah. And so what I was trying to do is find anything so that we could compound that, right? And so like, okay, so can we do something so that we have that money to go start and like raise insects so that we can sell those and like make and like, but at the same time, that trickle is like a trickle. Like it's probably not enough to even like have leverage. So I'll give you that on that end. Um, so if you go on the website, there's like a part of it that says Artemis, and it's just like software. It's like AI based, but we're just making API calls to like analyze scientific papers, and it's a cool concept. And the idea one day is that it's going to be a core like piece of like Earth Barrier, where like a customer were to log on and they explain their like farming problem or whatever their aquaculture problem, and it will like diagnose and like give you a solution and then have it ordered to your like farm and like it'll just and then there's like a
That's
picture of your farm and like analysis and stuff and it's like it's a thinking thing, it's a thinking being that understands your farm and like it can talk to you and work you through your problems and order solutions, etc. So like there's that, and basically it's a control center for the customer, for the user, um for the biology. So if you see that on the website and you're like what the fuck, this is stupid, it's just unfinished. It's very early.
But yeah, I don't know. I think you have like so many like good ideas. I think like all of your ideas are great. I think they're
Thanks.
very helpful. I think they provide potentially like a lot of value.
Yeah, maybe a YouTube video is a way to start.
Yeah, I think at least make some videos to show what you're doing, and put them out there. And if like, I think probably if you like were to try and find like VCs and stuff, it would probably be helpful if you had like a cool little video to show them. Um, because like, what are you like if you do see them, like, what are you normally like saying about the company and stuff?
It's tricky because it depends on the person. And like I was thinking about like what I was how I was going to tell the story on here. The thing that I've been trying to do recently is like integrate the entirety down to the smallest working pieces, like the genetics, like the down to the nucleotide. And that's really hard to do. I think I'm getting better at it, but it's really hard to do in communication with somebody who doesn't have like the same like understanding, right? Um, and so I've always kind of been just like, I don't know, giving a piece to somebody based on like what their interests are, what their background is, whatever. Um, and so I don't know, but recently I think that this sea lice idea is like potentially probably a good idea. So yeah, other than that, I have been just dumping.
I think well the thing is I think if you just pitch it as like, listen, like farmers have the problem of like sea lice, we're
Yeah,
gonna solve the issue. We
yeah,
just need like some light funding. Like we're gonna do it anyway, but like it would be faster if
yeah,
you gave us some funding, which I
yeah,
think is appropriate leverage. If you're just like we're gonna do it anyway, it's just your
for sure.
funding would be helpful. Make it faster.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
um, because you're not dependent on them at all. If you're gonna like your plan is, I guess, to Uber your way to funding, which
The plan is to Uber the way to funding. The plan is not to Uber my way to bootstrapping, right? Because that's just like you can't bootstrap a terraforming company. I absolutely expect to take on outside capital. It's just that, um, I'm bootstrapping my way to better leverage is has been my plan the whole time. And I think that like where we're at now with two patents, with like some progress in the lab with a solid understanding of like it's not solid yet, but like a much better understanding of like the market and the problems and like what's going on in aquaculture, et cetera, in life sciences as an applied level. Um, I think we're in a place that, everything you're saying is true.
is there potential to like sell the patents for a quick buck, or are the patents like necessary?
Yeah, so do you mean okay, so like licensing I think is generally a good idea. I wouldn't want to give up the patents. The patents are like pretty core, especially like the binary counter. This idea, so like that was the first patent was the binary counter, self-de-editing, and the idea of wrapping that into gene drives. Those are three separate ideas that we kind of patented like together, but like as separate claims, right? So like they're like three things. But then uh, the new one is this idea of the sterile organisms, but it's cool in that you can apply it to any um, sexually reproducing organism, right? So like asexual, like single celled organisms just doesn't work. You need to have like two individuals and cross. Basically, it's binary, right? You have half of the machinery in one strain and the other machinery in the other strain, and when you cross them, they work together to like make the progeny sterile, right? Um, and so that idea in itself is not new. That idea has been done by UCSD and it's licensed to this company called Agrigene. And so they're doing it to solve like mosquitoes and Mediterranean fruit flies, and I think thrips they might be working on now. Um, but they haven't done anything marine. But we said, well, that's ridiculous. This is biology. You can't stop us from like you can't patent just sterility, right? And so I came up with a new way to do it, which is better. It's safer. It's more effective. Are you familiar with CRISPR? Okay, so there's off-target effects, right? It can make mistakes. What we're doing has no mistakes. It's recombinase based, and if there's mistakes, those mistakes are distributed. So like you can have one of the pieces break, but like the other two or three pieces are individually enough. They're individually sufficient to give you complete sterility. So you have like the potential for error is like spread out across it. Um, So it's much safer for release. We're also working on some ideas. We're adding this, so it's a provisional patent. Second patent is provisional, which means it's like this open book that you can add ideas to for a year before you like convert it, and now you've like closed that book and now you patent that thing. So we wrote the provisional on what I just described, but we're adding ideas to it. Where okay, so you've got like basically you've got two different recombinases, two different separate sets of recombinases, and the sites that they target. Does that make sense? They lead to excision of genes that they target. So the sites that they target, that they flank, are the fertility genes. So when you cut those genes out, you get sterility. And they're but so you have them in two separate strands. When you cross them, they cut each other's genes out. Um, and so, like, basically, you have two strains, homozygous, right? When you cross them, you have heterozygous progeny. And so they're cutting each other's strains out within the two chromosomes, right? Um, so now you've got these like antigens that are the recombinases that you used to cut out the genes. The fertility genes are gone, but the recombinases that did the cutting are still floating around in the site as well. But so like, what if you were to like use those to turn on, so you can do inversions or you can do excisions, right? If you used an inversion to turn on a gene while at the same time excising the fertility genes, you could turn on a second set of recombinases that then go back and excise themselves out and excise the first set of recombinases. So you get this like complete lack of antigen, and really clean biosafety work. So what we're doing with that, with this second patent is, so we're saying anybody can do this. If you're interested in programmed sterility, you can license our patent, and you're free to experiment in any model organism or in any organism. Um, for example, I think that like we're working on sea lice now, but like sea stars that like are destroying coral reefs are really interesting to work on. What's cool is that the it's called PG-SIT. That's precision guided sterile insect technique. That's what UCSD is doing. PG-SIT is like specific to insects, but ours isn't. It's any sexually reproduced organism, except that it also, because it sidesteps their patent, you can also go back and do insects too. And so I think it'd be really cool to do like spotted lanternfly, right? Or
Please.
compete with them on mosquitoes, right? They're awful. They're disgusting, those things, and they're destroying ecosystems. Also, I should mention, in addition to all of this stuff we're doing, like the ecological engineering, we're doing really beautiful simulations, like next level simulations on GPU kernels that are doing like, so they're agent based, and so like you program one organism, right? And you just give it all of the properties of that organism that you think are like necessary for that, to like you're trying to understand some ecological interaction, like its age and like its sex and like what genes it's carrying and like how it interacts with another organism, whether that's reproduction or parasitism or predation, whatever. And then you just simulate like a million of them in the system and you let them interact, right? Rather than trying to like make mathematical assumptions with equations that are just like wrong most of the time, you just let them interact. And these systems, these are just beautiful simulations. So we're making a lot of progress in that. They're also cool in that, like, okay, so I know that this fjord has a particular infestation of an amount of sea lice, right? Well, how many do I need to release to combat that? Well, I can just simulate. I can ask, I can find out how many I need. And so yeah. Um, anyway, to answer your question, yes, licensing patents is a great idea. Selling the patents, I think, they're way too broad to give away. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing like such cool stuff, dude. Like, why are you not marketing yourself a little bit?
I mean, yeah, I'm a scientist. That is not. I'm not good at it. You're right. You're right.
Licensing thing is. Do you think there's like demand for people who want to sterilize, like do sterilizing work and can't?
So okay. So the field of synthetic biology has like for years been this incredibly ambitious, like mm, inspiring field, right? Like that's where like this idea of this company called Colossal, they're trying to like make woolly mammoths. Yeah, they just did dire wolves, right? The ideas there, like where that comes from, is this really, really beautiful like imagination, right? But nobody could do anything about it because and so therefore, uh, synthetic biology has always been tied to like pharmaceuticals, right? To like medicine, to like brewing medicines, to like doing like point precision, whatever in humans, which is kind of funny in that it's been specific to human medicine because I'm afraid of touching humans. I don't want to touch the germline at all. Like I want to like that's everything outside of humans is our domain, but like humans are not, right? Like it's just like such ethical and but like that's the entire field has only ever been. So now we're at this point with program sterility that you can actually look at an ecosystem and you can say, I need to do something here and I don't have a better solution, or the other solutions that I've been trying like aren't working. This is a way to like go do something about it. And so I think that this is going to blow up once people like I don't know. I don't think it's really caught on as like an idea in but like but what's also really really interesting is that it doesn't just have to be you release steriles to compete, right? They're sterile. You can edit the crap out of them and then release them to do whatever you want. They don't have to just like go compete. You could take like a little crustacean and give it like like resistance to different environments, and you could give it like the chance to go clean up that environment. You could go, you know, I mean, you're releasing programmed nanobots, microbots, mini bots, whatever you're just in billions that you can mass rear and they can do whatever you want, right? They don't have to just do ecological like sex competition. You can do richly edited organisms that are safe to release now because they're sterile. So I think once that idea catches on, it's gonna change like everything, you know?
Yeah, dude, that was like such a good pitch. Can you like give it to someone who would buy your license? Like I would be convinced if I wanted
It's
like
funny. I was invited to give a talk at, Ginkgo Bioworks? Okay, so they're a genetic engineering company here in Boston. Brilliant. They're the reason that I am doing what I'm doing. They were the inspiration. I like that started it off for me. They have since sold out. It's just so sad now. But me and Michael were gonna give like a joint talk at one of their meetups like a week, like a month ago. And we had like made all these slides and it was gonna be a really good talk, and then the main speaker was late, and so and then he gave his talk, and then our slides popped up on the board. We were like gonna give that pitch to this genetic engineering like society, like the right people, right, who would want to do these things, and then they like shut down everything. They were like, okay, everybody go home. What?
sorry,
It's like
let's go.
5 minutes, literally a lightning talk. It's supposed to be 3 minutes, man. But
Like I feel like probably if you like went to like some I don't know like biotech majors like some university and like you gave a talk, I think that'd be awesome. Especially if you were just like, hey, like insert university here. Like can we just like give a talk, provide some value to your students? They probably I wouldn't be surprised if those companies if those like universities didn't like have like somewhere on their website where you can like put in like a request or something to.
well, it's an interesting idea, and I hadn't really considered that, and I think it's worth attempting. But like, even at why not reach out to professors directly, right? Like, I could send an email to a professor and say, "Hey, I'm working on this. Would it be cool? Would it be okay with you if I came and like told your students about it?"
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah,
would be
that's
so
a really
cool.
good idea.
Also, I think what was the thing after the licensing? Sorry, there was something else I was going to tell you about. I'm blanking. It
I
was
don't remember. I'm so sorry.
no, it's okay. Um, hmm, I really forgot. It was like I think it was like a very good idea in my like I don't know, but I was
Yeah,
like that's like the better idea.
if it comes back to you, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Um, I forget like where did we go after the licensing thing?
I was talking about the patents, and then I was talking about this idea of richly edited organisms, like release of like genetically engineered organisms to solve problems other than just like, but then that's kind of where my brain stopped.
I really
And
I
yeah,
forget, but I'll get back to you if I remember. Um,
very good.
but yeah, I don't know. I think it was the simulations. Um,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
have you guys like built the like are they fleshed out or like is it still
They're
in?
baby simulations, but they work.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That seems like something that you can sell. Like that that seems like something that you can offer, you know?
Yeah. So our idea is to bake that into the Artemis platform on the website. So like a research. So right now, what you can do is you can log on to Artemis. You can make your own account. Do you ever use ChatGPT? Do you use the voice feature? You can talk to it.
I have not, no.
Oh, really? You haven't like? Oh, do you have the app?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you should try it. It's because you could talk to it in monologues. You could talk to it for like 8 minutes, and like it deeply understands you. In fact, like it's gonna work better for you if you tell it more and you just talk to it, right? Um, So, but the annoying part is that it drops out all the time. So I like loses your transcription. So I fixed that on the website, and so you can hit a button and it records it, and it gives you like the like a 15-minute like monologue in like a copy and pastable thing. You can put that in ChatGPT. Um, so it was just an annoyance in my head. But anyway, my point is that you can log on now. You can make an account and you can add credits to it because like you're making API calls which cost me money. So like I'm passing it on to the user as a business does. Um, and so you can buy credits. And so the idea is, can we put our simulations on there too, so that you can run your own version of the simulation, and you're just running GPUs at the same way that you would, you'd run it against the cloud as a call, and we would charge them users, to run our models. Basically the same way that you would with any other.
I see the idea. I'm just saying, like, I think where you are currently, I feel like it would make sense to offer that, like, and like make it known that you're offering like simulations of that, you know? I feel like especially also if you did this, I think if you, like a lot of probably like professors or even just like high school teachers or even like middle school teachers, you know, like
Yeah,
biology
yeah,
teachers. I feel like if you were like, hey, like you can show your students like how this stuff works, I feel like they'd totally buy into that. Like that seems like really cool. Like if I was a
it's
teacher, I'd be like,
interesting.
yeah, I want to show my students that, you know?
Okay. All right. Interesting. I will play with that. Absolutely. And then there comes like you are young, you're in high school, you have all the energy in the world. As you get older, you get tired. And so like there's like a limited amount of bandwidth that you can like do things with your life, with your time, right? And so sorry, there's in the background, balloons. Anyway, um yes, absolutely. Right now, I'm like super focused on the sea lice idea, and like all that I do every day is like, you know, call Norway, call Chile, call Canada, work on the patents, read side reviews, work in the lab, right? And so for me to like pivot and start working, trying to sell our simulations while we're also trying to spend time developing our simulations so that we can use them to run the sea lice stuff. Um, is absolutely, you're right. It could make us money. It's me trying to balance the question of like, would that time make us enough money by selling, by licensing the simulations, that it wouldn't be better invested just trying to work on what we're doing now so we can go get venture capital? I don't know the answer.
I feel like some unpaid interns. If you pitched it right, I feel like you would get some unpaid interns.
They're illegal in Massachusetts.
Okay, not in Boston.
What?
Okay, so you
Boston is in Massachusetts.
well, yeah, but like so it's chill, right? I was like, unless like the mayor of Boston specifically was like, I don't know, because you said it's legal in Massachusetts. So I was like, did like the mayor of
No, no, no.
Boston?
It's illegal in
Oh, it's
Massachusetts.
illegal. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
explains. I was a little confused.
yeah. Sorry.
It's like this was the mayor of Boston specifically, like, not here, dog. Um, but yeah, okay, that sucks. It's unfortunate.
So uh, it, they, we work with a nonprofit, and they have like a wonderful collection of uh, people who volunteer for that institution. Every now and then, some of the people there will help us, right? Um, and so that's kind of the way that we've been able to take a little bit of volunteer help. Um, but in terms of like taking on an intern who works full time for us, or not full time, but
Yeah, I
um,
got
like in a way that we should be paying them, is technically illegal. So we don't do that yet.
you. I feel like you can get like volunteers. I feel like that would work. No.
Volunteer. Oh, I see. No, volunteers are also illegal.
Oh, what?
I know. I know. You must pay them a minimum wage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if there are ways around it, maybe use them. But
Yeah.
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 But yeah. I don't know. I think you have like a great idea. I think there's just a lot of things you can sell that you're not that you're not selling.
And I'm not yet. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
including the idea. You know, I feel like the idea is a great idea, and you're not really selling that either. Like it's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
No, yeah. 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 You're right. I am not a salesman. I should be. I need to learn how to become one. I mean, like, there's no like excuse, right? I can't just say, "Oh, I don't do sales." I am a founder of a company. I have to, right? So, but yeah. So I need to
Yeah,
work on that. You're right.
that was. Hmm. I don't know. Massachusetts isn't. How many hours is that from like Pennsylvania? Not that many. I don't think. I'd come visit you guys if I could.
6.
6. That's a doable amount. You know, I'm sure there's stuff in Boston, but you know. Actually, anyway. Um.
But yeah, I mean, like that's kind of where we're at. That's the game we're playing.
I think in your head it's like I think in your head like you don't have as much potential as you do, but you have a lot of potential. You just it's just a sales issue.
That's the sales issue. But
Like
thank
you
you.
have an incredible
Yes,
you're sitting on like
you're very.
a golden nest of eggs. And I feel like
Thank
you're
you.
just not there's just no attempt at selling them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah. I guess so.
yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like in your head you're like a fledgling startup with like nothing, but like you have things, you just need to sell them.
Yeah, yeah. I guess so. Um,
No, I really like I believe in like your idea and like the situation. I need you to like sell them, you know?
yeah.
But yeah.
Um,
I think it's very
yeah.
cool what you're doing. Like I think it's like incredibly cool and like inspiring and like I think a lot of people would find it very cool. And I
Thank
like
you.
love how passionate you are about it, you know? And like how much you want to like be behind the vision, you know? Like clearly you have like a solid vision. Like I feel like you have everything that a founder needs, really. I mean, I don't know. You can be like Steve Wozniak and like maybe you just need to find your jobs, you know?
Maybe I don't know. Um, maybe I don't know. I yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I do like I like really believe in like everything you're doing except for the fact that you're not selling yourself, which is
Not
unfortunate.
selling it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I hope that in like a year, I'll be able to like you know follow up on this interview and say, hey, just kidding, sold it all.
Yeah, that would be like so awesome. I remember you guys were like I remember last time like I talked to you like a couple months ago, it was I think you were working on like editing algae or bacteria or something.
What was I working on? So we were working on. I know I was sitting in the lab when I was talking to you. So I was probably working on, but we hadn't started this sterile insect thing yet. So the only thing we could have been working on that I was in the lab working on was the self de-editing organisms. But that was past the point where we realized that like there's issues with it, right? So basically, like if you've got a counter and it's like keeping track of generations. What happens, and this is like a self-propagating thing, it keeps going, and you're relying on this counter to like limit its propagation, right? What happens if the counter mutates at like in any organism, right? So like that turns into like a seed population that like goes and blooms that you have no control over. And we realized that it was it kind of led to this sterile organism solution. But I must have been working on that, but I
Mm.
don't know. But it was like past that point, so I don't know. We were also in the greenhouses trying to raise. Ooh, I'm gonna have to go see my battery's dying. But we were trying to raise insects, and the idea there was just like, can we just compete with the market, just like not do anything fancy, right? Like we've got lots of fancy ideas, but like maybe the first thing we do isn't fancy at all, that just funds the rest of it, right? Like, can we raise like parasitic nematodes? Can we raise parasitoid wasps, whatever, in our greenhouses in and just sell those because that's already on the market, right? That's already got regulatory approval. All you need to do is put it in a box and sell it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think, in fact, it's probably a good idea in the sense that of vertically integrating like ecosystem engineering. But it's also like You have to weigh, like, ideally, like, okay, so I don't necessarily want to be the TSMC. I would rather be NVIDIA, where like NVIDIA is like the design corporation, and then they have TSMC like build all their chips, you know? Um, I'm not really looking to get into production. We'll get into production as much as we need to prove a concept, to like prove a prototype and like, but then spin that out and sell that company, or like have somebody else license that to build something around it. But yeah, the idea is to basically be a design corporation.
Are there like are there like production corporations that do that sort of thing in biology? Because I know for NVIDIA, like I was reading like the biography of, I don't
Yeah,
know, there was like some
Jensen.
book about it. Not of Johnson, but it was just like like of NVIDIA. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, but it was like at the airport. But so there were like a lot of like chip manufacturers that their job was just like to manufacture chips, and so the design like all of them like they had designers that they would manufacture chips for. Like, is there like a pre thing for that in like biology or like?
Sort of.
Okay.
Uh, Ginkgo Bioworks, the company I was just talking about like a little bit ago, is basically the only one, and they are struggling because they don't have anyone like us. And so like we're their ideal customer, right? And they are just like ahead of their time. And so if we can get to a point where we're like we've got like a strong relationship with Ginkgo, that would be like enormous, right? They're really good genetic engineers for sure, but they're really good at scaling organisms, at scaling production. And so what they're almost like a good middleman, where like another company wants to like be the main production house, and all they do is like maintain like bioreactors, maintain fish tanks, whatever, right? Um, but going from small little starting stock to that huge production is like a really actually like nuanced tricky thing to do, and Ginkgo's excellent at it. So like they're this middleman that like takes our ideas, scales them, and gives them to somebody else as like a turnkey business, right? And so if like that's like the dream, right? Like that's the best
Have you
business
have you
relationship for
thought
us,
of
I
like
think.
have you thought about like going up and like asking about like a deal or something like that?
Me? um I have not had the courage to do that. I no, I
Yeah,
should.
is there
I'll also say I have talked to investors before. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Um, and you sit down with them and you explain it to them. And they just don't. Okay, so again, you're young, you have like, a forward thinking mindset. I think when you talk to like entrenched investors, they're thinking about risk, they're thinking about budget, and they're thinking about um, all these things, and they just pretty much don't believe it. And they they're also very smart, and they see problems in it, and there will always be solutions to the problems. This is an engineering effort, right? You can always engineer your way. There are very, very, very few fundamental problems, but it's like topological mathematical problems. But the real question is like fit, right? Like, is it time? Is the market correct for this? And it's not just like, oh, is the market right? It's like, is the market right? Are the conditions right for this to like? It's like putting a seed in the ground in the wrong season, right? Um, like, is it gonna grow? Is it gonna work? And then there's also the question of like, is this guy capable of doing it? And so like I don't have a fancy degree. I was doing a PhD, but I dropped out. It wasn't at a fancy university. It was at Northeastern here in Boston. It's not like I come from pedigree. Um, so my co-founder also was from Northeastern. He's got a degree in computer science. Brilliant, brilliant person, but it's not like we've got and then um and I'm just being honest with you because you're asking, kind of challenging me. And then no, it's great. And like I say that I spend all day sending emails, calling other people, and I do. But how often do they pick up? How often do they? And the worst part is not how often do they pick up, but how often do they respond to emails? It's crazy. You're trying to help people. You're trying to contact farmers, and that you don't get a word back. I don't get a word back from professors, right? They just don't respond. And so it is a I think it's I think there's a lot of jadedness in the world. And so when you come in with the novel approach in a really like traditionally, historically, like poorly performing industry, biotech, and you come in with like radical, like really radical ideas, uh, people just think you're crazy and they don't believe it, right? There absolutely has to be a little bit of a leap of faith to accept some of these ideas. Um, and so I think that, there's work to be done there. It is a numbers game and it is a persistence game. And so I've been doing this for 3 years now. And so you're absolutely right. There is a part of me that is holding myself back. But I think there is a part of me that has continued in the face of extreme adversity.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, but you're right. I do not. I'm not laughing at what you're saying. You're hitting some serious notes. So
I understand. Like, there's a lot of perseverance that it takes to even have brought it this long, and this
I don't
far.
know. Maybe, I mean, like, I am very lucky, right? Like, I do have a car I can drive over. I I you know I have my parents like love and support. Like, I'm not like there's a lot of like you know there's a lot of luck involved. And so it's probably easy for me to do this. And I'm passionate and I love it and I love what I'm doing and I wake up every day and I think about this and I care about it and I there's not a bone in my body that ever thinks like, oh, I wish I weren't doing this. Oh, I wish I had, and also what's the alternative, right? Like get a job. I'm like, come on, fuck that.
No,
It's
I
awful.
mean, I think your mind is for the most part in like a great place. Like the fact that you're like, oh, I don't have funding, let me just like bootstrap with my like Uber. I think that's like very impressive. And I think it's a very like good like founder mindset to have. The fact that like there's no part of you that like wants to turn away. I think that's great.
Yeah, and there's going to be dark spots in the future, and I think that this has been a real like trial. Like I said, like a forging of iron. That has built me into a person who will get us through dark times in the future, right? So they'll come. It's just the nature of things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think you're great. I think you're like great founder material. I think it's just a mindset shift. I don't think it's anything else.
Yeah,
I think the person that you are
yeah,
is
probably right.
great at what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I really like believe in like your product and like your mind, like where you're at. I think it's Have you thought about like crowdfunding?
Yeah, I never really took it seriously. What'd you say?
They said not through crypto. Please don't do crypto.
Yeah,
Um,
you were the one who said don't do crypto. That's right.
I was, yes. Were you like
You're
thinking about
you're
it later
right.
and you were like, someone told me not to do crypto?
Yeah, but yeah, I think that yeah, no, traveling is fine. I don't know. I never took it seriously just for no reason at all. Maybe I should try it.
Interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I think probably it would. I feel like just because individuals are probably like more likely to be like, yeah, that sounds really cool, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, people bought into like. I'm thinking like the things that like I can think of that were like insane, like when like Musk was like, we're gonna go to Mars and like build rocket ships. I'm thinking like, he did have to like fund that himself until like some people bought in. So I'm like,
Sure, sure.
but I don't know. I think because you're solving like a very real problem, and like
Yeah, I think and it's like we're you have to because it's not a real problem. It is a series of problems, and this happens to be, I think, the first one that we've identified that's actually economically viable, right? That we can like build a bit. And I have to go like
okay,
now-ish because I'm gonna have to. Here, I'll sit like this for the. This is my charger. So can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, I think that we are trying to solve like real.
I can see it.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the recording stopped because my headphones changed.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Um, So yeah, but we're solving, yeah, real problems. But you have to, because that's the only way to get where we're going. So it's just the first problem I think that we have an actual chance of solving. That's a real problem for like a large industry in the world. But yeah, I don't know. It's
Do you know like how much it would save? Like if this was successful, like how much money it would save?
$2 billion.
Okay. See, that seems like mhm.
Yeah, the salmon market is 23-ish billion dollars, and they're spending roughly 9% of all of their yearly global revenue trying to get rid of these lice, and so that's roughly $2 billion. So that's the entire like market for trying to get rid of these lice. But I think that we could probably do it like with one solution. So we can corner. I'm ridiculously bold to say we can corner the market, but I think that we have a technology that could like really take a chunk out of it. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And then we go from there. We reinvest it. We do other things. We do more interesting things.
I know you have to go. Thanks for
Yeah,
talking to me.
yeah,
This was really fun. I learned like a lot, and I was like, this is really cool. I think you're doing like really awesome stuff, and I think you're really awesome. But yeah,
yeah. Thanks, Ananda. This is great. I sometimes you gotta hear your ideas bounce back at you, and yeah, your perspectives are immensely appreciated. So, um, reconnecting. But thanks.
yeah,
Yeah, it was great. I will talk to you in the future.
okay, awesome.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Have a nice night.